This week on the show, it's time to talk about all the latest theme park news, including Disney Genie, which everybody loves.
And that life finds a way, because we're talking about Jurassic Park and Jurassic World at Universal Studios Islands of Adventure.
Are our takes more like the normies, or do we have some controversial opinions? You'll just have to find out. So hold on to your butts, because this is Theme Park Workshop.
Yeah, it is.
Alrighty, welcome back everybody to Theme Park Workshop, the podcast. Wait. Okay, so is it the Theme Park Workshop podcast, or is it Theme Park Workshop, the podcast? Because this is important.
I know it's important, and I was wondering the same thing this week. I think on Spotify, it's the Theme Park Workshop podcast. But on YouTube, it's Theme Park Workshop, the podcast. And in the audio, I think we go both ways.
So call the show whatever you want. It's me and Adam, and we're just talking about theme parks, and
that we are.
That's what you can expect. So let's go ahead and hop right into the news, because what would a show be without talking about the current events?
And yeah, I don't know. It would, I think it would be 10 minutes shorter. I think that's what it would be.
All right, so Disney Genie is first up on the docket. Neither of us have used it, but there have been a lot of hot takes coming in about, is it worth it? What's its impact on the park? And overall, it seems like Genie itself, at least the day planning service that is included for free, is kind of garbage, especially compared to touring plans.
That's what I keep on thinking about ever since they announced it. Was that it's felt like touring plans. And you have touring plans. I know when we go to the parks, especially a Disney park, because Universal, we're there all the time, or relatively all the time.
Yeah.
And if we see like Spider-Man's a 45-minute wait, we can wait on that, or we go in the single riders. Like, there's ways around it. But I'm at Disney so rarely that when we've been there, you pull up the touring plans app, and I thought it worked perfectly, and Genie sounded like it, and it doesn't sound like it's going to dethrone it anytime
Definitely
soon.
not. You tell Genie your favorite rides are Rock and Roller Coaster and Tower of Terror, and your day plan is Disney Junior live on stage at 9:33, Galaxy's Edge shops at noon, and Alien Swirling Saucers at 3:50. That's your day.
Hey, everyone loves the swirling saucers, mostly because of the acronym. But again, this is a family show. Not ready to mark this as explicit.
No.
So,
but yeah, from your perspective, what have you seen on Twitter about it?
I've seen mixed things, and I think folks don't exactly know what to make of it yet. I know Seth Kabursky, who friend of the show, great fella. Actually, I have his book. I want his book, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Disney Genie, not the Unofficial Guides 2020 one. But yeah, I saw him posting about it, and he actually said that he got more out of it by actively circumventing it, which is not a great endorsement. And I think, and again, I think most people are using it to the best advantage by using it as a guide, a guideline. Like, it's like the pirate code. Disney tells you what to do. They have these rules laid out for the perfect vacation, but it's just a guideline.
Exactly, and I think that's ultimately where it's going to be left. I think the individual lightning lanes are very helpful if you're going for your once-in-a-lifetime trip, and especially, I know people have talked about with Rise of the Resistance, where, like, imagine, it's a 2-hour standby. You get in the 2-hour standby, you're an hour into it, and then it breaks down for an indefinite period of time, and you don't know how much time you're going to sink into it because it's a very unreliable ride.
Yeah.
So to pony up however much money you need so that you can just ride it immediately in the lightning lane whenever it is working, it might be worth it if it's your only trip in 5 or 6 or 7 years. But for the average guest, you're not going to need to buy a premium lightning lane for Expedition Everest or Space Mountain. Those are very reasonable attractions to be able to get on.
Right. And I think too that the surcharge for lightning lane Rest in peace, Fast Pass. I don't know how long you last, or else I would put the dates. So remember the fall in Fast Pass. Hey, our segment's back. The extra charge isn't too ridiculous. I think the lowest is $3. It's kind of going back to that e-ticket, D-ticket, C-ticket system in a way. $15 for a ride on Rise of the Resistance, like a guaranteed ride on it. That ain't terrible, I don't think. Although I do think about something your girlfriend tweeted, where she's like, the more I hear about Disney parks, the more I really don't want to go.
Yeah.
Which, and she said that's ironic because she loves Disney, I believe she said, and she likes the idea of the parks, but these changes just have turned her off on it. But I had a lot of fun going to Disney in like 2019. Just one day I went alone,
Yeah.
and when I went alone, I think I just did Country Bears. And I just did animatronic shows because I'm like, well, I don't want to wait 65 minutes for Jungle Cruise, but my day's not ruined. I'll just do something I know I'll like or
Yeah.
haven't done in a while that's not as popular, Tom Sawyer Island. And I know everyone, I know most people when they go to these parks, they want to do everything because everyone says do everything. Or among like the Dumbo spinners, choose one. They're all the same. But other than that, do everything. You're going to get the most out of it if you do the most things. But I've just found over the years, I get the most out of something if I'm not actively worrying about it. And I know I've said, oh, that's what I love about Universal. You don't have to plan as much. If you go to the hotel, you get an express pass. You really don't have to think about anything, right?
Yeah.
And even if you go on a normal day, I went with someone, she had a 1 day ticket and I had my pass, but we just vibed the whole day. She said, Adam, I've never been to a theme park and been more calm. Because we were just like, well, I don't know what we're gonna do. Let's just walk. Let's just walk.
Yeah.
Oh, let's do Spider-Man. What do you think? Okay, sure. Oh, I ate too much. Well, let's do Seuss Trolley train ride. Let's wait in a half hour for that. So I mean, either way, you're going to get the most out of these parks, what you put into it. But I totally understand. Like people are like, that doesn't sound appealing at all. And if you do want to do everything when you go on your trip, again, your once in your lifetime trip, you that's all you can do. Then yeah, it is um, a bit of a bummer. It sounds like to have to rely on this new system.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're a frequent flyer, I think you make the most of it. I'm sure I'll try it next time I'm there, just for kicks and giggles. I don't know, but at the time, at this current time, it sounds like it's still got some stretching to do, some growing pains.
Yeah, I'll definitely say my girlfriend's opinions have been influenced by my constant praise for Universal and SeaWorld's annual pass benefits, which far exceed anything that Disney has to offer, to be sure. I remember consistently being upset that the Disney Pass did not give me a discount on food because that just seemed like such a basic thing that I should have with a gold pass. But it wasn't there, and I still don't like the reservations. I get it. I understand why they do it. I like just being able to show up to a theme park and just pop in for an hour or two. And it's weird. It actually relates well to today because I was out and about in Orlando because I had to get a haircut and I had
Looking
class.
fresh, looking fly.
Thank you, thank you. I had to get a haircut and I had my class was going on a field trip to some film production place where they store like lighting and grips and um that things of that nature. But Universal was only 15 minutes away from it, and my haircut got out at like 12:30. Class wasn't till 3, and I was just like, hey, I'll pop into Universal. So I did, and there was no waits for anything because it's a random Wednesday. So 5 minutes on Despicable Me, walk on Transformers, walk on Gringotts, and I was out of there and off to class. It's like
Oh,
I don't have to think about, oh, do I need a reservation? Do I need, am I gonna like? I just know that at Universal it's gonna be so much less stressful than Disney, and that's honestly I think one of the biggest things Universal has on Disney. Biggest thing SeaWorld and Busch Gardens have on both of them is that their annual passes have free guest tickets. I think that is an unmatched benefit.
that is fabulous. I love it. I haven't used any of my free guest tickets. I should think about that. I
It's
need to
so
do
nice.
that.
Yeah,
But
they don't roll over
yes.
to the next year, so
It's a beautiful dang perk. And then sometimes they give you bonus friends too.
Yeah,
Every given month, they have like extra month perks.
they do. $10, extra tickets, and I know I love that I get preferred parking at all the parks with a pretty decent pass. Like it's not a super high end pass or anything, but I just always get preferred parking, and I don't know, that's really cool.
Yeah. So moving on to our next story, we actually touched on it last week, not even knowing about it. We just knew that its fate was in limbo. There are rumors, and it turns out these rumors were very quickly confirmed. Fear Factor Live is never coming back.
I'm not sad. I think people gave the show a harsher judgment than it deserved. I think this show, the screens were old, and the the vibe of it was very early 2000s, but at its heart, Fear Factor was something really unique and fun for a theme park. I think there's very few places where you as a guest can sign up to be put in active danger via waiver, and compete against other people who just showed up at the park for the day and win actual money. The idea that that was the thing, and that it was literally new people every day, that that was really cool. I thought, wow, it's an actual competition with actual guests who are doing actual stunts. Was it a bit overlong while they try and set up from stunt to stunt? Sure, but it was like you connected with the people. They had A camera, B camera. They had the ground camera showing them on the screen, trying to get interviews. The hosts kind of knew how to lean into whoever's personality it was. Some people are driving up the crowd, and then other people are like super shy and they're just there because they're more athletic. Um, I don't know. It was just a nice celebration of the people who just came to the park for the day, and there was something very, very down to earth and unique and special about Fear Factor. So personally, I would go see it every 3 or 4 months, when I visit the park, because I always thought it was a fun show. And I'm not sad that it's gone, because again, it was dated, but I appreciate greatly that it was something you couldn't get at any other theme park in Orlando. Um, and for that, the fact we've lost something completely unique, it is most certainly a loss. As much as people are like, oh, at least anything's better than Fear Factor. It's like, no, there are things that are not better than Fear Factor. Sorry to break it to you. But yeah, I think underappreciated, but I'm also not sad that it's gone. But yeah.
Yeah. Fear Factor has actually been at the Universal Parks longer than Fear Factor Live. And do you know how that is? It actually didn't start at Universal Studios Florida. It
No,
started at Islands of Adventure
oh.
in the Thunder Falls Terrace restaurant as a Halloween Horror Nights maze. It's a little fun fact. If you go into the forums, people are like, what the heck was that? Like, why was that a thing? And, and everyone's like, I don't know, but it was a thing.
Just like the Venom house in the Spider-Man.
Actually, it's Maximum Carnage. They call the Carnage Warehouse now. Come on. Do you even HHN Wiki? Come on.
No, I really don't.
Wow. um yeah, same. I'm not gonna miss it. I think even as a kid, because I think the last time I saw it, I was a kid. It started to feel samey, because you realize, I've seen this maybe 6 times. They shouldn't be getting roaches or whatever it was every time. When because they had the 3 folks who won the audition or whatever to do the event, but I think they did like a crowd participation, and one lucky winner got to you have to stick their head in some bugs
Yeah.
for like 90 seconds for a transition. So like there's some things that it was the same show every time, even though it's different people every time. And you saw it more, it sounds like, than I ever did.
Yeah.
So you probably saw the variations
I mean,
more than
I
I did.
I saw it, but maybe I was over exaggerating with once every 2 months. Maybe it was more like once every 5 or 6 months. I don't know. It's been so long since it's been closed, but
I know. I mean, it's been seasonal operation, but I can't remember. A lot of people who go to the parks all the time can't remember the last time it was open, so maybe that's a bit telling.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I saw it again, I'd feel the same way I feel about the Sinbad show. I saw the Sinbad show for the first time in several years, shortly before it closed, before they announced that it was closing, and I had good memories of it. And then I saw it again, and I had no more good memories to have. You know, my dad doesn't fall asleep in theme parks, but he took a good nap in that one, and the seats aren't even comfortable. Like, it was bad. And I'm sure, I'm sure the cast would have been talented, good at what they do at hyping up the crowd. So I don't want to ever take anything away from a cast if I don't have to,
Yeah.
and I never have to, because that's rude.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I would have not have vibed with it. I am happy to see something else go there. I was hoping it would be Beetlejuice. Been hoping for years Beetlejuice would get an upgrade, but after this long, maybe not. It does raise some questions about Halloween Horror Nights. What's going to be the big amphitheater show? There's no amphitheater for the show unless they move it to Islands of Adventure again for the first time in 16, 17 years.
I
Who
think
knows if they'll do that?
they can convert. Well, I guess if the Grinch is moving into Blue Man Group,
Oh, that's
they
true.
can convert the theater where they usually have the stadium seats for the Grinch potentially into. I mean, that's an idea. It obviously doesn't have the same infrastructure as the Fear Factor theater, but
Yeah.
I think as
Oh,
far
they
as
could even use the Blue Man Group Theater now that you mention it.
you could, yeah. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, Universal almost always does their best work when they're tasked with Potter. And
Yeah.
I think those skeptical of the VR attraction should put your worries to rest because Universal has a pretty great track record working with the Harry Potter franchise. So,
Yeah. Even like the little shows, like the Frog Choir is like a lot of fun. The
yeah.
Celestina Warbeck, Three Brothers, Carket Market Street or stage.
Yeah.
Those have all been like low key fan favorites.
So they
Um,
certainly have.
I haven't seen Ollivanders in person, so I'll withhold my judgment on that. But from what I hear, yeah, you're right. They're really batting 1,000 over there. Just one last word. I think ultimately what it is with Fear Factor, it's kind of the Shrek 4D situation. It's just stayed too long, and so it probably feels worse than it actually is. It's not. I don't think it ever was like a Fast and Furious kind of thing. I think it was one of those things where in the park guide, like when it comes out, like, oh man, you gotta see Fear Factor. You gotta get your express pass for Shrek 4D. Skip Jimmy Neutron. Who cares about that? Shrek 4D though. Um, that early hype, or even I remember Theme Park Insider wrote a glowing review of Stitch's Great Escape. But these kinds of attractions that maybe just stick around a bit too long, and fan reaction kind of sours on it over time because it no longer fits into the brand. And even if you connect it to World Expo, the brand doesn't really match with Fear Factor. Poor Men in Black's gonna be all alone if they make this Potter. That's gonna be all that's left of World Expo because Simpsons ate it up, and Potter's going to eat it up. Who knows if Men in Black's gonna be next? I hope not. It's such a solid ride even after 20 years. But I know Universal doesn't. They're not
Yeah.
really sentimental.
I don't think that Universal has incentive to remove Men in Black at this point. I feel like there's still bigger issues in the studios that need fixing before you replace a fully loaded with animatronics dark ride, especially after they have gotten, the survey saying people are tired of screens. Men in Black works so well, and it provides something so new and different and unique in the park and, tangible. I think we're much more likely to see the Simpsons ride go than Men in Black or Kid Zone. Kid Zone needs to be addressed, obviously.
Oh, very quickly.
Um, yeah.
Except for ET, don't you touch it, you monsters.
Yeah. Shrek 4D is obviously being addressed. Who's gonna say how long Rip Ride Rocket has before they either build a new coaster in its spot or if they do Secret Life of Pets and build out for that. And obviously Mummy's getting refurb. Fast and Furious desperately needs help. But there's just so many things in Universal that need work before Men in Black. I think it's safe for another 5 to 10 years at the very least.
It's gonna be interesting though. That's not even a Universal property. It'll probably go down as their longest running ride of all time.
That's very true. And I was watching a video the other day about how the Men in Black franchise has kind of died off, mostly just because Men in Black International just absolutely failed, both at understanding the franchise and why people enjoyed it, and also just being a good movie. Um, and Men in Black, nothing has ever been able to recapture the hype of the original movie for people. I'll make a good argument for why the third movie is on par with it, but most people don't share my sentiment for that. And
Unfortunately.
I think overall the Men in Black franchise is dead, and it's so funny how many alternate timelines there are where these reboots of Universal properties did well, and we saw the rides get updated. Like Men
I
in
know.
Black
That could be
International does well. Ride gets updated with Chris Hemsworth. Mummy with Tom Cruise does well. Ride gets updated with Tom Cruise. It's like I'm trying to think. There's like so many properties where they've come out with new movies that
I
could
know. We
have.
should look into that and do a whole episode on that
That would be
for too
really
long.
interesting.
That'd be a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man. So last on the news docket, Six Flags is opening a new roller coaster, the Wonder Woman Flight of Courage. It's supposed to be, I believe they said, the tallest and the fastest record-breaking single rail coaster. I think it's called the Raptor. I think that's
Yeah,
the
Raptor Trap.
ride vehicle. Yeah. And for Six Flags Magic Mountain, that's historic because it's going to be their 20th roller coaster in the park. And according to Park President Don McCoy, and I'm reading this from coaster101.com, Don McCoy says it's the most roller coasters. It's the highest coaster count in the entire world. That's something. Have you seen a video of this ride? The CG video?
Yeah, I have it. It looks, not dissimilar from the Jersey Devil coaster installed at Six Flags in Jacksonville, New Jersey. I've been meaning to get on one of these single rail coasters. Unfortunately, I can't travel because money is, money. But one day I will get out there and ride one of these. And so, good on Six Flags Magic Mountain for winning the war against Cedar Point to have the most coasters, and for doing it with pretty high quality coasters at that. I think adding West Coast Racers as a dueling coaster was a little bit of a cheat, but you know what? You made it to 20. Excellent job.
Yeah, I desperately need to get to another Six Flags park. It's been too long, or not even just a regional park like Carowin, Six Flags. They've all changed so much since I've last been, and I've not been to um, any roller coaster further, or sorry, any theme park above or away from North Carolina. That's as far as I've gone. So I've got a lot of experiences left to have, and I am excited to experience this one day. Hopefully,
Yeah,
it sounds. Hopefully, it is as good as it sounds, and it's not another Green Lantern.
I still
But
haven't been on an RMC, so I'm very hyped for Iron Gwazi and/or the one at Six Flags over Georgia if I can get on that.
oh yeah, I'm still desperately. I say desperately a lot. I've been noticing that, but I'm desperately nervous about Iron Gwazi. Still, I know I said the last episode, but nothing's changed.
All right, so that concludes our news segment. Thankfully, Balthazar Banshee did not interrupt this time. Um,
Yes.
are you gonna raise your hand? I can't tell what's happening.
Oh no, sorry. I was going to have this cookie.
I thought you were gonna like wait. We didn't finish on the
No, no, no. I'm going to have this cookie, but while I eat this cookie, I'm going to put in a little transition music. So enjoy these tunes.
So let's get into what is our main segment for this week, which is, of course, Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, and the Velocicoaster. What is the state of Jurassic Park at Universal? Where has it been? Where is it going? And what are our thoughts on the masterpiece that is Velocicoaster that I could not get Adam to put his hands up on because he refused? So, Adam, would you like to speak?
Maybe as I get more used to it, I will. Like Kumba, I could probably put my hands up on Kumba because I know that right like the back of my hand. Cheetah Hunt, perhaps, maybe. Velocicoaster's still fresh and scary and frightening and all that jazz. But you talk about Velocicoaster being a masterpiece. Well, you know where most masterpieces come from?
Where?
Other masterpieces. Like the movie from 1993, directed by Steven Spielberg, Jurassic Park. It spawned all these sequels. The Lost World Jurassic Park, which, mind you, he adapted from the book, but first he had to force Michael Crichton to write the book, and then he ignored everything but the basicest of the premise. And he shoved Joe Johnston aside because Joe Johnston, everyone's favorite comfort director, said, "Hey, Steve, I want to direct a Jurassic Park. You did it so good. I want to do it too." And he's like, "All right, Joe, you can do it." Actually, but wait, I like this script. This script's actually good. You can get 3. But Steve, there's no script for 3. That's fine. Do what you do best. And 3 was a fun Indiana Jones adventure, right? But with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And then now it's Jurassic World with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard and Colin Trevorrow and J.A. Bayona. He did the second movie. I don't know if he's back for the third in any capacity, but it's gone on, and the appeal still endures because that first movie is so great, but the sequels are all fun in their own ways.
That's a good way of putting it. I'm very excited for Jurassic World Dominion. It is very much Jurassic World Endgame in that it's bringing back the original trio together for the first time on screen since 1993, with most of the current series' cast, except for Jake Johnson, who could not reprise his role that was in the script due to scheduling conflicts, for which I am forever disappointed. But if you didn't know, our masterpiece of a show, Theme Park Workshop, also references the masterpiece that is Jurassic Park.
It's true.
You might say our masterpiece came from the masterpiece of Jurassic Park. We try to put a reference to Jurassic Park in every episode. Sometimes it's more overt than others, but we try to fit it in there. I think I even fit one in my Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway review because it was very essential.
It did.
So
it even made its way into our Hagrid's review. I didn't realize until I was listening back to the podcast. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, we've got a podcast feed on Spotify and Google Podcasts. Go ahead and subscribe to those. And I put our 2019 Hagrid's review onto that feed. And I was listening back to it, and lo and behold, a Jurassic Park reference comes out of nowhere, and I loved it. But here's the thing: like, this wasn't like, all right, here's what we're gonna do now that we're doing Theme Park Workshop. We need to have a story. We're gonna make an overarching story. We tried a little bit. I don't know if you noticed. As a script writer, I didn't. We said to ourselves, okay, it's not just going to be another YouTube theme park series. It's not going to be a history channel. It's not going to be a rumors channel. It's not going to be a touring. It's going to be something else. Okay, we did that. But in all those meetings, we didn't think to ourselves, we need to reference Jurassic Park every time. It just sort of happened. And when we realized that, we're like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. And we rolled with it. And it's one of the most favorite things that we've done on the channel.
It's so great.
We're not going to tell you every reference right now, but if you go back and watch them, and this is not a cheap way to get you to watch our videos, but if you go back and watch them, it'll be a fun little Easter egg hunt for sure.
Yeah. So as for the actual movies and books, I think we kind of touched on our feelings, but I've actually read the original Jurassic Park novel. Great novel. Excellent. It's like Michael Crichton writes a bunch of little short stories at the beginning that all vaguely tie into the larger theme and then actually gets to the meat of the story. So very well written book. Very intense. I think the Jurassic World series, movies have been kind of middle of the road. I like Fallen Kingdom a lot more than most people.
Like it better than me for sure.
Yeah.
Listen, it's fun in its own way, but I don't like it.
But I'm so excited for Jurassic World Dominion, mostly because it's probably going to tie into the current Jurassic World TV series, Camp Cretaceous, which is on Netflix.
Say more.
Yeah. It's a series. It's an animated series about a group of kids who got stuck on the island during the events of Jurassic World 2015. And it recounts their adventures trying to escape the island. And in the process, it is setting up a lot of additional lore that will presumably be touched upon in the final Jurassic World film, including companies that are rivals to InGen, such as Biosyn and Manticore, as well as touching on the character of Dr. Wu and more of his motivations throughout the series, as well as just having a nice extra perspective to the original Jurassic World film. And season 4 drops on December 3rd on Netflix. So if you're interested, each season's only about 8 to 10 episodes. It's definitely worth your time if you're interested at all in Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. It's one of the strongest things I think to come from the series since the original trilogy.
Wow.
And yeah, that's what I have to say about Camp Cretaceous. It is an excellent, excellent show. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the Jurassic World movies and
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of touched on it in this intro. Grew up with the movies. Funny enough, the movies that we have here at my house, they aren't mine. They're my brother's. He got fun fact, he got them when he was like 9, and I'm like, he can't watch these. These are PG-13. It was a Christmas gift. I didn't know he had any interest in Jurassic Park. And I'm like, wait a minute, time out. I'm like 12 and I can't watch these. And my parents are like, what are you talking about? You're stupid. They didn't say that. They're nice, but they're like, what are you talking about? Anyway, grew up on the movies. The first one, it endures as one of my favorites of all time. The second one has a lot of good parts to it. The third one is just fun adventure film. Jurassic World, very clever satire, might I say, on on theme park culture and or at least theme park industry. Maybe not. Well, I don't know. And then Fallen Kingdom, beautifully shot. Really don't like the story choices, but I am still excited to see not Fallen Kingdom. If I see that movie less, I'll probably be happier. Dominion. I am looking forward to Dominion. I can always get more Jeff Goldblum and Sam Neill and Laura Dern. So very excited to see it. I am bummed that I did not take advantage of the IMAX preview of the movie before F9, which I did see, but I decided to go to Dolby, not IMAX. So I lost out. The books, I thought the first one, I really loved it when I read it, and the second one is a nice popcorn novel in comparison. But I do want to reread both of them. And based on what you're saying, I really need to check out Jurassic World: Camp Cretaceous
yeah,
on Netflix.
definitely worth it. And odds are you'll probably get more out of Dominion if you see it. So
One can hope.
it is worth noting Colin Trevorrow is behind the development and the story for the series. He's executive producing on it, and he's very involved. And because the Jurassic World trilogy is essentially his brainchild, his story, he's taking great care to oversee production to the point where he said on Twitter that his favorite episode of the series is currently in season 4. So we have that to look forward to.
Wow, the whole series as in the show, or series as in Jurassic World?
Probably just the show.
Okay.
But I mean, somebody asked him on Twitter, like, "What's your favorite episode?" And he's like, "Can't say. It's in season 4."
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out. But nope, Segway's not coming. I'm not going to try. Listen, we spare no expense on this show, but even money can't buy a Segway.
There we go. All right. So Jurassic Park began in the development of Universal's Islands of Adventure
Yeah.
after it was no longer Cartoon World, and it became what it is today, based off of, for the most part, books and stories of various types. And the Jurassic Park the ride was originally just going to be a clone and put where Men in Black is today. But once Islands of Adventure was greenlit for what it is, they said, why don't we make a full land out of it and make the Jurassic Park Visitor Center the icon of the park.
Yeah, and this is another example of a great theme park relationship with Steven Spielberg. Spielberg was behind E.T. Adventure. He stars on the ride. He's probably the shining star that everyone says, "Hey, look at you." Of course, Botanicus is king. Magdoll is everyone's nightmare, but Steven Spielberg, what a guy. He was behind. He helped with Jaws. Jaws was his movie, and he was involved in the creation of that. Back to the Future, the ride. He was a producer on the film, and he if memory serves me right, he helped really push that to be what it was, as this basically to take down Star Tours, not take down Star Tours, but to compete with Star Tours and make a really competitive attraction. It's kind of the same relationship George Lucas had with Disney, back in the 90s, where George Lucas not only consulted on Star Tours by it being a Star Wars ride, but they also called him in to help with Alien Encounter, to help find the right tone for it.
Yeah.
So I was all over the place. George Lucas helped with that.
Still
And
can't believe that was in Magic Kingdom.
Yeah. That was, and of course, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, both of their involvement over the years has not really stayed. Spielberg has kind of distanced himself from Universal Studios, I think amicably. It was more other studios wanted to, DreamWorks, which he also started. But he's not as involved with Universal these days, outside of like producing Universal movies like Jurassic World or Transformers. It's Transformers, that's Paramount. Never mind. Right. Yeah.
Transformers is Paramount.
But one of my favorite Spielberg stories is I don't know if this is hearsay, I don't know if this is a legend, but I still like to believe it's true. On the Jurassic Park River Adventure, which was of course was an opening day attraction for Islands of Adventure in this Jurassic Park alternate history story of the Jurassic Park series, where John Hammond got to build his island, or build his park, open the park on Isla Nublar. He climbs up that 85-foot lift hill or whatever it is, and right before the boat drops and the T-Rex is about to eat everyone, he says, "Wait, stop the ride." And Steven Spielberg gave us stop the ride. He was responsible for this in a lot of ways. He stops the ride, takes off his lap bar, gets out of the ride. They close it again, and then everyone goes down but him. And I've dreamed for years that I would be there on the day he's there, just to be like, "Steve, we can get off together." I wouldn't say Steve. I'd say, "Mr. Spielberg, I love your movies. Can we leave?"
You're gonna call him Steve. That's canon.
Do you want to go over the opening day attractions?
Yeah, so the opening day attractions included, of course, the Jurassic Park River Adventure in much better shape than it is today. The Triceratops encounter, which there are many reasons why Triceratops encounter failed to be as a successful attraction, but you can watch YouTube videos on Expedition Theme Park and many other places recounting those stories. There's of course the Discovery Center, a recreation of the Discovery Center from the film. Camp Jurassic, which is Universal's response to Tom Sawyer Island, and it absolutely crushes Tom Sawyer Island. And Pteranodon Flyers, which is the slowest loading attraction ever built. And the primary reason people attend the Orlando Informer meetup so they can ride it without a child. And
ride so slow you need a height limit.
and the Island Skipper Tour Dock, which was a opening day attraction where the three little tugboats took guests from port of entry to Jurassic Park, and it's something that many people miss to this day.
Yeah. Now, even though it is in this alternate history where John Hammond got to open Jurassic Park without any problems, and you can still see him, in the queue for Jurassic Park River Adventure. He talks about opening the park and what he loves about it and all that jazz. It doesn't really feel like the movie. It feels like an extension of the movie, or an adaptation of the movie. I don't know what the right word is, but instead it's a very island calypso kind of theme in the music, and it just feels more island and relaxed than, say, Jurassic World does, for example, or even how it felt in the movie. And the parts of the park that we got to see working, it didn't have this feel, but this feel is different. It's kind of cool. It's a bit more than the movie suggests. The aesthetic and the theming is a lot of palm trees, lots of palm trees, but that really helps with that feel, I think.
It's very Floridian. It's a Floridian version of Jurassic Park, to be sure.
Maybe that's why it always feels like home.
think it's really interesting that they were banking so hard on Jurassic Park expanding with the kind of the flying helicopter attraction and the Jeep tour. Like you can see those in reference both in the ride pre-show video and in the map, the kind of physical map out in front of River Adventure. And neither of those came to be. The future had very different plans for Jurassic Park.
That's true. Those plans we'll get into in a little bit, were plans as in what they came to be.
Good segue, wrong time.
Right. Back when it opened, and I think even until a couple of years ago, and maybe it was actually not so far away. I think maybe the pandemic kind of affected how much we see this, but they used to be walk around baby dinosaurs and their little dino keepers. And you can look at videos from the past where there are characters from the movie to meet. There's like a college student and a really bad John Hammond beard walking around with this Irish accent. And then you had an older person as Jeff Goldblum, probably in his late 20s, early 30s. Or not Jeff Goldblum, Ian Malcolm. Although they are one and the same, aren't they?
They really are.
Got to meet them, and that would have been really cool. I hope they bring that back one day, perhaps.
Absolutely. And I think when Jurassic World Dominion makes epic bank at the box office, we'll see the final few parts of Jurassic Park that have yet to be brought back in full force, either to celebrate the film or simply due to the film's popularity and guest demand.
Yeah. There's also, I think, one of the more memorable parts of the land, besides the rides, of course. If you don't want to get wet, you're probably just going to walk straight through to get to Potter or Poseidon's Fury or Kong. I know not everyone likes Kong, but
yeah.
But one of the most memorable parts of the land area are the dino meet and greets. And by that, I mean the giant statues of dinosaurs from the movie, the T-Rex, I believe, and of course the Spinosaurus. Maybe a little bit tacky. They don't feel like Dinosaur World, but it doesn't exactly. I think the closest thing I could think of that's there at Universal is the Simpsons characters, like the statue, the donut lard boy, lard lad.
Yeah,
is that his name, lard lad?
Lard lad,
or is that Milo?
No, Milo is Lardy boy.
Oh, okay.
I think Simpsons is lard lad.
Well, there you go. Now, Jurassic Park, until recently, I think has been a product of its time, with the Jurassic Park Discovery Center being so 90s. I don't know if it's ever recovered.
No, it's still very, very 90s. I think it's nice when they put up a little wall banner for whatever the new Jurassic movie is, because then it feels a little bit more modern. But other than that, it's stuck in the 90s.
And the River Adventure, the ride, I think, is timeless, but the dinosaur animatronics, they are starting to, I say starting, they have been looking their age for quite a bit, that just comes with animatronics and water, I suppose. It's still great.
It's bad combination,
but the aesthetic of this area is still 90s. But as you're saying earlier, there's also Camp Jurassic. It's a more controlled Tom Sawyer Island and maybe a bit more adventurous. I think you said one time when we went, you could just vibe there, right?
Yeah, Universal's refurbishing a lot of the nets too, so it's going to be intact for ages to come. And it's just, you can definitely get lost. There's so much there to explore and discover. And kind of going back to River Adventure being stuck in the 90s, I do wonder sometimes if they actually have, because they actually shot the film with Richard Attenborough as Hammond. Film, because this is all from before digital, can be infinitely upscaled. So I do wonder if they wanted to, if at some point they could go back and take that footage and just rescan it, and create a 4K version, maybe get some new graphics, and update the Jurassic Park River Adventure to just feel modern. I think that's one of the cool things about shooting on film, is you can always come out. That's why we're always getting new versions of movies from the 80s, and the 4K, 8K re-release. It's like how are you extracting more quality? But it's because it was filmed.
Yeah.
And you can. So I think seeing them remaster old pre-shows, would it take away from some of the charm? Perhaps, but I think as far as an investment for the overall vibe of the ride, if you want it to feel modern without, you know, paying a whole lot, refreshing the pre-shows like that would be a really, really smart way to do it.
Yeah, and going back to something we said earlier in the show, and I think we even said last episode, though, is that one thing you run into is potentially outstaying the welcome, where one, it feels irreplaceable, but simultaneously it absolutely needs to be replaced ASAP. And I know for the longest time I've felt there's a certain charm in Jurassic Park as is. Before Velocicoaster, before Jurassic World made its way in there, I thought, no, none of this should be replaced. Everything should stay as is. But even with the pre-show, with it looking old and the Discovery Center feeling very old in a lot of ways, it can kind of, I don't want to say cheapen, but it does make everything feel like, okay, you can go now. Like if they don't update the Discovery Center, for example, I don't think I'll ever go back in there to experience it. Like once you're able to do all the exhibits again, like I think some of the dinosaur heads are still closed. Last I was there, they were anyway.
Yeah.
You know, if they don't update it when you can go about it, I might not ever go in there, and then one day it'll maybe close, and I won't care, which is sad. I don't want to not care that a ride is closing or an attraction is closing. And the effect of the theming, with it being of the era, I think refreshes are good and they're necessary. So what you're saying, updating that video, yeah, maybe lose some of the charm from the 90s, but it can feel newer and fresher, like everything else around it, right?
I mean, I think you can still keep the performances. The performances by the newscasters are obviously still going to be very, very 90s.
Yeah.
But just like, modern graphics and modern music and editing that, doesn't resemble those 90s news programs, could really bring a new life for it, even if we still have the 90s hairstyles.
Right. But Jonathan, just keeping the Jurassic Park section in mind, what do you think the effect of the theming is for you? Like as you go through Jurassic Park and you're experiencing it holistically and not counting what's there right now with the new stuff, what was your like feel, your thoughts?
My read on it was always, um, you get lost in the jungle, but it was always interrupted by kind of the crass commercialization of Universal really wanting to have Jurassic World but not fully committing to it. So things like the Blue Raptor encounter, the Thunder Falls Terrace constantly. I remember when Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was coming out, it was covered with stickers for Fallen Kingdom coming out.
Yeah.
And of course the Midway games, the infamous Midway games that were added as I walked through the land. It really was transitory unless I was planning on doing Jurassic Park River Adventure, because that's something that I will do from time to time, but it's not an every visit thing. So for me, walking through the land was more just, all right. I immediately walk through the gates. There's Harry Potter right there. There's no barrier. I see the back of the castle. Got some photo ops. We got some carnival games, and we got a lot of advertisements for Jurassic World in what's supposed to be Jurassic Park. And it was very confusing and chaotic. And again, this is just my personal takeaway, but I don't think I found the holistic piece in Jurassic World that you felt. But yeah, definitely talk to your experience with it.
Yeah, I think I still stand by the opinion that this is one of the best themed lands at the park. Or I should say it this way, because I realize that's going to be discounting Potter. I don't know how you can discount Potter if you hate the movies, if you hate the books, what if you don't even know them, like my dad. You look at it like this is something impressive, you know. But I think what Jurassic Park does is what Potter does equally well, in that it reimagines and represents the IP really, really well, and it feels lived in a way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't walk through Jurassic Park and think to myself, "Oh yeah, this is definitely just another theme park land." Which, listen, I
Yeah.
love Seuss, I love Marvel Superhero Island. I frequent those places often on my trips, but they do feel like theme park lands in comparison. Great lands, but they feel like theme park lands. Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
and maybe it's just because I can't see the Hulk from every place I stand, but
Yeah.
um it does feel holistic. It does feel good to me. Sure, there's the age when you start to go into places, and I do skip over a lot. I don't ever do carnival games. I don't always stop at the drink stands. And the one time I went to the watering hole, my gosh, the line was forever. Granted, this was during the dark times of 2020, or was it 20
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't blame any team member for that. It's just the nature of the circumstance. But I don't really stop into these places too much. Still, it's the most memorable one of the most memorable parts of of Adventure for me. When I think Islands of Adventure, I think making that curve at the top of the map, right?
Yeah.
I know that curve like the back of my hand. For whatever reason, that section is just like very visceral to me. And it's not,
Yeah.
I can't tell you what's there, but I just know like those palm trees and walking past the giant rock that says River Adventure. Like those, to me, that it's almost, I mean, it makes sense that this was the land that influenced the direction that this park would take. Because it does feel like their signature land until, of course, Potter came in. It maybe doesn't have the freshest ride. And listen, I think River Adventure is a top 10 Universal Studios ride even now. But I'm not going to do it all the time, and it does have its age. But even if you ignore the age, and I do go on it, I'm like, man, this is such a great ride. Oh my gosh, this is so great. Sometimes I get wet, sometimes I get soaked, sometimes I get dry. Who knows? I don't. But it really is a great land that keeps the spirit of the movie. I wrote this in my notes that River Adventure keeps the spirit of the movie. Things go terribly wrong. Granted, it happens in every theme park ride, more or less. But it is the plot of the movie. You go to experience a theme park, you know, and then the dinosaurs get out, and then you got to get out of that situation. Maybe, perhaps, there's peril. Who knows if you'll make it out? That's the spirit of the movie. That's what you think about when you think, at least the last half of Jurassic Park. But one of the reasons why I think the first movie endures, and why everyone wants a sequel, even if the sequels have been less than good more times than not, there is this hope, there's this dream that really fuels it, right? That dream of seeing a dinosaur for the first time. It's an impossibility to be, man, what if that happened one day? And even then, it can be like the dream of creativity, or the dream of pursuing and achieving, your dream, or experiencing that beauty of nature that we may not get to experience unless we go outside. And granted, it's in a controlled setting like a theme park, which can extrapolate on that. But the movie is scary, but the movie is also really, really freaking beautiful. And I think walking through the land, I think they still maintain that. They keep the dream of the franchise, because you're experiencing the dream, you experience it as it was going to be. But
Yeah.
the spirit is still there throughout. And that's before Jurassic World came in. I think, we'll get into it in a few minutes. But just that original 1999 portion, and how it was until like 2018, 2019, the spirit's there, the dream is there.
Absolutely. I think especially when Triceratops encounter was there, it was very fleshed out land. You had something that appealed to every aspect of Jurassic Park that you could really want. So yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Now, of course, one of the main themes of Jurassic Park is evolution, right? Right? Things got to change.
Yeah.
It's a theme park. You got to keep things fresh and exciting. We've talked about River Adventure. It does get a little longer in the tooth as time goes on, but still great timeless ride because of the structure and all sorts of other things. But just at least talking about how it has evolved over time, right? Triceratops encounter, later the Discovery Trail, it closed early in the age of the park. It was one of the opening day attractions that really didn't get to see a whole lot of light, because you have these rides there that have lasted forever, but they're opening day attractions, with the exception of Dueling Dragons Dragon Challenge. They closed within the first 5 years of the park, and Triceratops
Yeah.
Encounter was one of them, if I have my years right. Either way, it was one of the early closures. But it comes back as the Discovery Trail, gets its last hurrah to help with Potter 2010 crowds. And you can see some YouTube videos of some people going where they shouldn't be going. You can see some really exciting, but not at all endorsed and really bad. Oh my gosh, you shouldn't do it. uh, videos of the backstage. But that idea of meeting a dinosaur, right, Jonathan? That's an exciting idea. So you know what
Yeah.
comes as soon as Triceratops encounter has overstayed its welcome?
What?
The raptor encounter, baby. Uh,
That's right.
I've never done this. Have you?
I have done the temporary version of it that they um well, actually no, yes, I have done the full version. I've not done the full version in its current location. I did the version when it was in its temporary spot.
And
Um
that's where Triceratops encounter was, I think.
well, no, I was in like the temporary spot. So it used to be where Triceratops encounter
Right.
was. And then while they were building the new one, they put it right next to Pizza Predatoria in like this little
Yes, I remember that now.
stand.
Yeah.
So I did it in that. And then I have done the Meet the Baby Velociraptor at the current one, which is what they do in between showings with the actual
Oh,
raptors.
interesting.
Um, it's a very unique experience. I think the puppetry, everybody agrees, it's absolutely incredible.
I haven't done it, but just
Um,
seeing the videos and when they first showed it, my jaw was on the floor just watching on YouTube. Like I don't know how, man, I guess I can figure how they did it. But I mean, sometimes they put, not they meaning just theme parks, have put dinosaurs in the parks and they put a human in the costume. It hasn't looked very compelling. It hasn't
yeah,
looked great. But man, it looks awesome. This
it
blue.
does. I mean, everybody likes to clown on Disney's attempt to do the same thing with the person that's wearing like the black pantsuit and they got the dinosaur costume. It's like, no, this is very much a high quality movie level recreation with timed sound effects and full on acting from the cast members doing the Chris Pratt clicking thing, and it's definitely it's a full experience. And as far as the character meet and greet, I think it's definitely one of Universal's strongest.
Yeah, that's definitely the takeaway I get from it. And from people's reactions, it's actually quite scary too, being that close to a velociraptor, taking with your back to it. You want to put your
Yeah,
back to a raptor, but that's the whole point of the attraction. And one
exactly.
day when I go and it's not closed, because that's actually been the reason I haven't done it most of these times, is that Blue wasn't out, or they've ran out of time, so it's at capacity, right? That's what the sign says.
Right.
But that was the first time Jurassic World was introduced into the park, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was because it's blue, so it happened shortly after the 2015 movie. And then you start to see, because when that happens, you're like, wait a minute, this is Jurassic Park. Why is Jurassic World in there? The timeline, the canon. To go back to another Steven Spielberg, the time space paradox, space time. I need to watch that movie again. Oh, I'm so behind. But
That's actually Robert Zemeckis' film, but I
right, but
digress.
Spielberg produced it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you start to see more hints at Jurassic World potentially coming, and you're like, what? People like us who care about these things in some degree are like, but the story, what's the story? And so that AR mobile phone game was themed Jurassic World. And that starts to make its way in there. I remember seeing these signs. I think it was around the time Fallen Kingdom came out, but my dates are all over the place. Um, it was a mobile game, and they really enhanced the experience within the park. You can play it
Yeah.
anywhere, like Pokemon Go, but you could play it in the park, and you get to see some extra perks, some extra immersion, I
Yeah.
suppose. But again, the storyline is for Jurassic World. And if you remember, they did an after hours event at Jurassic World. I don't know what the point was. I don't know if it was like an OI meetup or if it was this some after hours thing. But there's an after hours thing, and I'll put the audio in right here. But they tease Jurassic World within the story of the Jurassic Park land. Everyone's wearing Jurassic Park gear, but they tease of an upcoming Jurassic World.
Hi, welcome to the Discovery Center here at Jurassic Park. My job is to keep you happy and well-informed while you're still with us, okay? We've been continuing to develop some new and inventive ways to improve our technology. One could even say that we're on our way to creating a Jurassic World of prehistoric possibilities. Okay, so throughout the evening, our highly trained dino experts and scientists will show you all that Jurassic Park has to offer. Here at Jurassic Park, safety is our primary concern. There are absolutely, positively, hardly ever any problems with the containment of our dinosaurs. However, if you should find yourself in what we call an unanticipated, natural, hyper-interactive dinosaur experience, we do have just a few tips to help augment your chances of survival. I'll let our hunters and scientists go over those in a bit, but for now, please enjoy the food rations we have and the drinks.
And then finally, Jurassic World comes. And Jonathan, you were the first to do it, so you should probably talk about when Jurassic World really stamped its claim here.
Yeah, that was when the Velocicoaster opened. So this was a huge deal. I know people were covering it from the permits on YouTube, and it was a wild journey because for Universal to try and squeeze a coaster this massive, this ambitious into what people saw as basically a place where nothing could go seemed surprising and, wild. It's like, how is this going to change the skyline? It's like that classic Islands of Adventure view is now gone. The Discovery Center just sitting across, covered with trees, that nice quiet area in front of the Discovery Center was going to be closed off.
Yeah, and something you even mentioned earlier as like the secondary icon of the park. You have the Pharos Lighthouse, but then you are actually in the park, and what's your weenie? It's the Jurassic Park Discovery Center from afar.
Exactly. So this was a big change. There was some complaining on Diz Twitter about how Universal builds coasters with exposed steel, which became a running meme throughout the community about how Disney can't have exposed steel.
Listen, my trauma says otherwise. Have you heard of the Barnstormer?
But yeah, so that was a fun Diz Twitter debate that was happening around that time. But piece by piece, the Velocicoaster was built. They kept building it through the pandemic, and I think we were all incredibly relieved that the Velocicoaster was opened very shortly after Universal reopened from the pandemic. And I was there for the very first day of pass holder previews, and I was blown away. It was everything that I could have wanted in both the Jurassic World attraction and just a new roller coaster for the park. It was something that was extreme and groundbreaking and different and efficient. It eats people. It goes so fast. It's truly, I think, one of Universal's best designs in recent history. It just eats people.
Mm-hmm.
And because it is so intense, there isn't as big of an audience for it as there was for Hagrid's, which means the wait times are often incredibly manageable. And even if it's not, you're moving through the line so fast and there's so much to look at that it's really hard to complain.
Yeah, this ride is significant to me for two reasons. The first one is when I realized I had a nervous tick. When I don't know what to do with my hands, when I'm nervous, I rub them like I'm a freaking supervillain. Jonathan noticed this when we were in line because I wrote it during the soft opening. Jonathan wrote it during the preview, and then a month later, I think I wrote it for the soft open. And I'm looking at it and seeing all the crazy tricks it's going to do and not really knowing how it's going to feel, because that's the thing with the new roller coaster. You never know how it's going to feel. You can watch all the ride POVs, but it's not the same as being there, right? I'm like, I think I'm calm. And then Jonathan notices I'm wringing my hands like I'm about to, commit a heinous crime, like a Mega Man or something, Not Mega Man, Mega Mind. And the second thing is, I don't know if it's significant to me in this way. I think I just wanted 1-2 parallel. It's great. Oh, wait, no, I didn't come up with personal significance. It made me realize I wouldn't mind if Jurassic Park went away. That's how good the ride is and how well it captures that feeling. And listen, I love John Williams. I love his theme. who doesn't love the Jurassic Park theme? I want to talk to that person and reevaluate their life choices for them, right? I'm taking away their agency completely, and I'm going to do their reevaluation because obviously they need help.
That is some bold work you're claiming to do. I think the therapy community would love to talk.
Maybe I'm the one who needs therapy. Who knows? But I was telling you this when we were in the line for it because it plays the Jurassic World soundtrack. And maybe it's because he's worked on theme park music over the years. He does the new Space Mountain score, and he's done several others. But Michael Giacchino, his Jurassic World score really feels very theme parky. It gets you excited in that theme park way that, the Jurassic Park theme or the Jurassic Calypso from the original soundtrack or Camp Jurassic theme or the Thunder Falls Terrace theme, it really doesn't capture that same feeling of excitement about going onto a new ride. It's the same kind of excitement you get on the Patrick Stump Incredible Hulk coaster score, right?
Yeah.
And the way it incorporates the IP with Jurassic Park references and Jurassic World theming, and even its integration into the story of the park, I think is really well done for a coaster, for a ride, a universal ride that has, I mentioned this with Hagrid's, that it was a pretty bare story in a way. It's not a high stakes story. Jurassic World Velocicoaster might be even less of a high stakes story because it operates just as it is supposed to operate. Nothing goes wrong. That's the fear that something's going to go wrong that builds up the suspense. Even if you've ridden it, 5 times, you're like, well, who knows? It's going really fast, and there's a lot of velociraptors. Things could very well go wrong. But yeah, this whole vibe in this section, I wouldn't mind if the Jurassic Park River Adventure became the Jurassic World the ride, or the Jurassic World River Adventure. I don't know what they'd call it, because looking at Hollywood, those sections, or sorry, that section of the park, the updates that they've made, the animatronics or animated figures, as I believe Universal likes to call them, they are so impressive. And now they actually really, really work. So bringing that over there, I think it would really give this land a bump. And it's because of Velocicoaster, right? Number 1, I learned my nervous tick. Number 2, it made me change my mind. That's how great this attraction is, not just as a ride, as a roller coaster, but as a piece of storytelling in this park.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I 100% agree. I think updating to Jurassic World would be fantastic. But it also goes to show how simple just making sure that your storytelling works for what your project is. I think one of the weaker things about River Adventure, and I didn't really touch on this, is that the story is so like the story is supposed to be very tense, high action, high paced, but that doesn't really vibe with a boat ride, especially with the whole getting knocked off track into a restricted area, and then you're approaching the T-Rex, and then there's just a giant drop, and then you get to the bottom and just cheer Jurassic World music. Like there's a lot of story things that Jurassic World the ride fixes, as far as its place. Like when you're actually going up into the building, you're not on a maintenance shaft track for the boat ride. You're actually going up to what would normally be the T-Rex Kingdom exhibit. So it's what you're going on is still a part of the track. And so it makes more sense that the ride is as a whole, the whole track from beginning to end, everything, including the drop, was all part of the ride. Just everything is happening, going wrong around you. And we could talk about the logistics of the Jurassic Park River Adventure storyline, but I just think with Velocicoaster, they did such a good job integrating not only the characters from the films, but just the idea of this is something that would actually be in Jurassic World. They came up with, all right, the dinosaurs are going to stay away from the trains because of this infrared light, and the coaster is literally just a coaster. That's what it's themed as in story, and it integrates obviously the amazing raptor animatronics into the queue, and multiple pre-show videos, the lockers, how everything about it feels exactly how you would imagine Jurassic World to feel. And I think the biggest thing that it does better than its predecessors, it actually integrates the characters from the movie in a way. And I know that would have been kind of hard to do with River Adventure, But when you look at what Jurassic World the ride was able to accomplish with the same essentially restrictions as Jurassic Park River Adventure, I think it just goes to show how far we've come with storytelling in the context of theme park attractions. And an update to Jurassic World River Adventure would really bring this land full circle into one shared theming. And as it is right now, I still like that you have the old and the new. I think it gives two distinct vibes, and there's something that's really cool about that. But yeah, I would definitely be okay with it all moving to Jurassic World.
Yeah, and I think for purists, because with every theme park, there's a purist. Notably, we've got our Epcot purists who hate any change that happens there. It feels like maybe it's warranted, but Magic Kingdom, what would Walt do? And I don't know if we exactly have that with Universal, but if there is a spot we have that for, what am I talking about? Of course we have that with Universal. Everyone's mad when anything closes at Universal. With Confrontation and Back to the Future, Jaws. People are still trying to bring Jaws back, even though its replacement is so much greater. And I like Jaws. I like Jaws the movie. I like Jaws the ride. I like Diagon Alley quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I think this slow process of replacing it, and I didn't even think they did it with the thought of ever replacing this land. Just slowly, it might just start with brand integration and marketing. It's like, well, okay, well, we need to make this work with the story. How we can do that? Okay, well, we'll say, welcome to Jurassic Park as we evolve into a new Jurassic World or something like that, and have Blue and do all these really great experiences that every theme park fan is like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love meeting Blue because it's a unique way to do a meet and greet and a scary way to do a meet and greet in the daytime, right? And the puppetry, the costume is so superb that it is a hit attraction. And then you've got the Jurassic World Velocicoaster, which has come in and has nods to like Dueling Dragons, with the little raptor statues if you go in through the watering hole entrance.
Yeah.
Just this slow integration. Think people are easing. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself, and then I think I can speak for myself and kind of generalize a little bit more, because I was one of the people who was like, this can never go away. If it goes away, I'm going to be sad. I'm going to ride. It's going to be my new Disney Quest, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not like that anymore, because they've really shown that they can do really great experiences that trump the original. And it's still kind of the same, but I think if it was 2015, I said, okay, the entire land's being rethemed to Jurassic World, and some people don't like Jurassic World. They haven't liked any Jurassic World movie that's come out, and it's mostly the writing, I think. And it's not even theme park fans, just people don't like Jurassic World. They love Jurassic Park, they don't like Jurassic World. But I think if you go here, if you hate those movies, you're like, this is really, really good.
Yeah.
I think there's a point there somewhere.
Yeah. That got very philosophical and good. But yeah, I think Velocicoaster is a great addition to Islands of Adventure. I think was it the most needed addition in the park? That's up for debate because Toon Lagoon is still pretty
that's
stuck.
what you mean. Yeah.
And Lost Continent until Poseidon's Fury reopens is still a land that serves only to hold its restaurant. But I think Velocicoaster changed the landscape of the park in a way that is very much for the better. And also, I can't go without talking about the Mosasaurus roll over the lagoon.
Oh yeah,
it's insane. Absolute best element on a roller coaster I think I've ever experienced.
It really is. Like, I know you hear that, people say that, and I was like, well, I mean, what more can you do? I mean, it's a corkscrew, and then you're crucified on Twitter for saying corkscrew. Heartline roll, I'm sorry. But no, it really is very frightening if you're prepared for it. Because I mentioned last week that ride is the most comfortable ride, or the most comfortable seat rather, that you're never going to be in, because the airtime is ridiculous. You're outside, it actively tries to kick you out of that seat. And it's a thrilling experience. And even with the raptors being statues, I think the effect, even if it's just like a slight bit of imagination, or you're like trying to tell the story in your mind, like it doesn't stand out to me. as much as
Yeah.
like the Hagrid's statues do.
Yeah.
It's the same in a lot of ways. Velocicoaster has the same principles as Hagrid's, and maybe that's why it's as successful as Hagrid's. I don't know if it's more so, less so. I think it's like probably equal.
I think. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop you right there. But I think, as far as the queue, I think Velocicoaster wins against Hagrid's in every sense.
Yeah, no question.
But I think as far as the ride, they're obviously trying to accomplish very different things. And so, yeah, it definitely makes more sense to do the statues on Velocicoaster than Hagrid's, because on Velocicoaster, you're going so much faster. On Hagrid's, it's like, all right, we're crawling through the forest. Oh, look, it's a statue of a centaur.
But again, it's another low stakes story that's a lot of fun, like Hagrid's. They both work at expanding the story of that land. Hagrid has introduced us a new realm we haven't seen, and realm sounds like a big word, but this new area of Hogsmeade that we've never heard about, which you might, if who cares how much you think about canon? I'm tired of thinking about canon myself. But Jurassic World, it does that, or sorry, Velocicoaster does that for the Jurassic section. The queue does something different. With Hagrid's, it was putting the pre-show at basically the very beginning of the interior queue, and with Velocicoaster, it solves the biggest problem any ride has at Universal, because you have to put things in lockers. The lockers are always a problem. You don't think about it too much until you're in there, right? Everyone talks about the stinky lockers at Gringotts, or the old cramped lockers over at Forbidden Journey, or Revenge of the Mummy. We used to complain about those lockers because they were outside for some unknown reason. Well, I guess because the space was taken. But now the space is there and those lockers are improved. But Jurassic World Velocicoaster, with lockers in mind, it fixes the whole thing and puts them right before you get into the official pre-show room, right before you go through the metal detectors. And it really is kind of like, well, why don't I think of this before? This is a really, really great idea. And you get to take pictures of the blue animatronic, which we didn't mention last week, and the Ian Malcolm Easter eggs. And if you really, really want to take a picture with Henry Wu, I don't blame you. You can do that with a 8K television or whatever that is. I'm sure it's just 4K, but my gosh, it's so big and so like pristine. I can't even see a pixel. There's no pixel gaps in that man's face. Holy Moses.
It's true.
And there's a lot of humor in the pre-show video. It's the one ride, the one attraction that you don't even get wet on at Universal Studios. And I think for that reason, this ride is a game changer.
It's so true, right? No water effect. It's truly a revolutionary, game-changing attraction. I mean, they almost dump you in the water. So
almost, they tease it. It's a little tease.
Yeah.
Kind of like the tease of danger. You're never really in any real danger in this. Everything goes according to plan, which again, maybe that's another revolutionary thing. It's the only attraction that has that in common with is the Seuss Trolley train ride, right? Yeah. It's the only other attraction I can think of where things go right that has stories. There's 2 stories on that ride.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, I guess Dr. Doom, his whole plan comes to fruition, but the good guys die, so that's no good. Something has to go wrong for Stormforce Accelatron to even, exist. Happens in the poster boards as you're going in. I mean, I think we're really understating how much this ride does. I didn't think anything could top Wild Arctic storyline, but here we are.
Wild Arctic. Wild Arctic was very game-changing for its time. The idea that you would get into a ride and end up in a completely different location afterwards, that you actually ended up in the Arctic, that was a game-changing concept. I know Disney certainly didn't try that with Star Tour.
Universal would try that with Then Poseidon's Fury, but no one got it.
It's very true, very true.
The 90s. I don't think there's anything left to say.
No, I think we covered Jurassic Park very in depth, very well.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation about everything regarding Jurassic Park. I think we both have a strong passion for the land, for the films. I'm sure we'll both go see Jurassic World Dominion in theaters in IMAX or Dolby, or we'll probably be there on opening night, let's be honest.
Yeah. Even if the reviews are just totally sour. My one hope for the movie, though, and I don't know what your one hope is, but my one hope is that we don't go to Vegas, because there's not one good movie sequel that takes place in Vegas, right? If it's in Vegas, you've already doomed yourself. Vegas Vacation sucks. Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 sucks.
You know what? I'm super hopeful for it just because it is a story that was planned from the first movie, unlike Rise of Skywalker. Say what you will about the cloning in Fallen Kingdom and the release of dinosaurs into the public. It was planned. It was very much intentional. That was where the story was intended to go. It wasn't a whim decision. So whatever story Trevorrow is planning on telling, good or bad, it's one he's been planning to tell from the beginning, which, at the very least, will lead to a more satisfying trilogy than the current Star Wars trilogy. And
I feel like I can't escape a podcast without that darn movie coming up. I'm on the podcast.
I'm sorry.
I'm on the podcast without a cool acronym, and every time we easily take a dig at that Rise of Skywalker picture. And in here, I mean, I guess here it actually fits in. Well, I guess it fits in there too. We're talking about Lego Star Wars. I guess it's kind of, but here, I mean, I guess Colin Trevorrow, he was involved in both.
This is true. He was going to do the third Star Wars installment, but that's just the thing that, this is obviously a tangent, but it's just like, it just really hurts because the third Rise of Skywalker just doesn't conclude any of what the other two movies set up in a satisfying fashion, and that's a problem.
You know what you call it when your third movie in the unplanned trilogy doesn't go according to plan?
Jurassic Park 3.
No, that's chaos theory, baby.
Oh,
came in somewhere.
There we go. Yep. Dinosaurs.
DNA. All right.
You didn't say your famous dinosaurs.
Oh, okay. Well, here it goes. Dinosaurs.
There we go. Now the episode has enough content to be finished.
So this episode has been produced by me, Adam Johnson. You can follow me at AdamJ_film on Letterboxd and Twitter if you like hearing thoughts. And then Jonathan has been my wonderful co-host and co-creator. Jonathan, where can the people find you? Give them all the places.
Oh, yeah. You can find me on Twitter at Wesley As You Wish. You can find me also on YouTube at The Second Dimension. I post animation videos there. And you can follow me on Instagram at Edward Jonathan.
And stay tuned next week because we got some spooky stuff going. I know spooky season's just about over, but you're going to get an extra taste next week as we talk about Halloween Horror Nights 30. Never go alone. Bye.